Hey guys, Charles here. Welcome to another installment of gear selection. And today we're going to talk about stoves. To get started, we're going to talk about individual stoves and their uses, the type of fuel they take, and maybe some good common practices and some best practices on how to do it safely. First, I want to talk about kind of your car camping stove, this big double burner over here. The kind of fuel that this guy takes, typical, just call it camping gas. You can buy this, it's propane. You can buy it at Walmart and Target, REI, those kind of things, like any in their outdoor sports areas. You can grab that. These last a pretty good while. You can take 1 to 2 on like a week-long camping trip and cook 3 meals a day on them, and it's going to last pretty easily. One thing that's great about this big double burner is that you can cook a lot on it, and you have a lot of your temperature control. You have a lot of control over the temperature there, so you can simmer, so you can get low all the way to hot. So if you need to boil something very quickly, you can kind of get there. But if you also have something that you want to cook nice and low and slow, you can cook it on here as well. You can see that it has 2 burners, also a benefit versus some of the other 1 burner options that I'm going to go over here in just a few minutes. So what we have here is the Gsi Selkirk 540. This is a fantastic stove for a double burner. It's pretty light. We rent this one here at the Outdoor Adventure Center. Some cool features about it. One, it packs down to essentially nothing. A little briefcase, which is nice. It packs down pretty light. The fuel system is pretty straightforward. It's got a little insert here on the side, and you just take this guy and put it on there. And what's also nice is because it sits, you can have it sit like this, so you can go ahead and just screw that right on there. And another great feature about the Selkirk 540 is the electric ignition. So it just clicks. Once you have the gas on, you go ahead and click that, turns it right on. It doesn't have a second electric ignition for this side, so you do have to light that side. Pretty easy though. But again, and this fits pretty good sized pots. It's about a 9-inch diameter across the burn surface. So you can put 2 large pots or a pot and a skillet on there at the same time and cook up a good meal. I mean, this is great if you're car camping or even doing some horse packing. This is great for 1 person all the way up to, I've taken a family of myself and 6 folks and used just 1 of these. If you have 2 of them, you can do a huge dinner going. We used to take these on trips pretty regularly before COVID hit. And it wasn't uncommon for us to have 2 of them going and feeding a group of 10. So these are fantastic. I say car camping because since they are a little heavy, they're harder to store. It just makes it a little bit more cumbersome when you're actually trying to get out there into the backcountry. All right, and again, these just take a propane canister there, and these are pretty inexpensive. The only downside, I'm actually going to go over this, and one of these kind of power gas. It's a propane butane mix. But one of the downsides is these aren't readily recyclable everywhere. In a lot of places, since they're pressurized gas, they want you to be able to release the gas before you bring them in. There's a couple of places I'm sure that would, REI may be a better resource for that. They could tell you how to dispose of these a little bit better. In the past, I've gotten all the gas out and I just take a little can opener and pop the bottom there, but I do not recommend that. I recommend checking to make sure those are recyclable in your area. All right, so there we have our 2 burner. And again, we do rent this here at the Outdoor Adventure Center. We have several of these, and again, they are fantastic to take car camping, especially on any long distance trip or something like that. Awesome. It's super easy to use. Next, we're going to get into some of our backpacking options. So one of the super light ones that, this is a personal stove. We do not have these here at the Outdoor Adventure Center. This is a Snow Peak version of what MSR makes as a pocket rocket. This Snow Peak doesn't even make this anymore. This is their Gs100 Igniter. This is super light, so if you're really into lightweight backpacking, you can imagine like how much this weighs. We're less than a pound right now. So for a really nice cooking option, it does kind of limit what you can cook and the amount of people you can cook for, but this is fantastic. So this guy just screws right onto here. It makes a nice solid base for it too, and then you put your pots on top and you cook from there. But again, you're limited to one pot, so you're kind of having to have to think about those when you're meal planning for your trips. But this is a fantastic option. What was nice about this stove is it actually has a little, I don't know if you can see it, but it had an igniter on there, so it was a really cool feature. I do know that those have a tendency to fail over time, and you just have to go back to either matches or your lighter. But a great option for some lightweight backpacking. And again, the fuel that this one takes is a propane isobutane butane mix. Fantastic stoves, especially if you're doing any kind of solo packing or anything like that. Or maybe like on something like this, I probably wouldn't use this for cooking for more than 2 people. And a lot of those meals are going to be either freeze dried, or I'm going to be cooking like pastas and things like that, and just adding things in to one pot. All right, so we're about to get into the MSR line that we have here. I'm going to start with the regular Msr Whisper Light. This is a fantastic stove. This is one of the most common like backpacking stoves that you'll see out there. The price point's around $90. It is easy to maintain. Stoves do need maintenance, especially backpacking stoves. This guy is a workhorse, the 2-burner, and it's not going to take the abuse that something like this will take, and it's definitely not taking the heat that a backpacking stove is going to take. But these are fantastic. MSR makes these really easy to work on. We have a center bolt here, pulls it out, and you can kind of explode it, clean it all out, put it all back together. And if you ever need any help about taking care of your backpacking stoves, come on down to the Outdoor Adventure Center. We have full kits to clean and maintain your stoves. All right, so the Msr Whisper Light. This is a fantastic stove. It runs off of a white gas only. You'll see this as camp fuel. It is white gas, is also known. Sometimes it's called Coleman fuel. I bought this for $15, and that'll last me a very, very long time. And the way these stoves work, so these are, you have your canister here. This is full of gas. You have a pump right here. So basically the way it works, this is a filter. You put the pump in there. It pressurizes the canister, does it just like that. The Whisper Light's pretty nice. It does have a good temperature range, so when you're cooking, you can simmer things pretty readily on it. So the fuel or the flame controls is excellent with the Whisper Light. Maintaining the pump is another key element to making sure your stove is ready to go. Anytime that you do go out to do some backpacking, always check your equipment before you go. The last thing you want to do is be, oh, I have everything I need, and then you get out there and something's clogged or your stove isn't working correctly. A lot of times you'll see that on the back end of your previous trip. So one of the things to kind of look out for is if you're not getting a good consistent blue flame. Right in here is where the flames actually come out, and these little, it's kind of hard to see, but in between these areas in here, sediment from the fuel and dirt and dust can collect over time. And so when I mentioned taking that bolt out, it'll come out, and then I think there's 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different layers in there that you can take out, clean, and get all those little sediments out of there. And then when you put it back together, it's going to be a really nice, clean burning stove once again. Okay, so again, this is the Whisper Light, and it takes white gas. White gas only for these guys. And it only takes those because it burns cleaner, and that's the the gas that it is, or that's the fuel that this stove is specifically designed to work with. Okay, so going a little bit farther on the Whisper Light. So this is the Whisper Light International. This is the stove that we use mostly here at the Outdoor Adventure Center for all of our backpacking trips. We also rent these. These are fantastic stoves. So they built off of the original Whisper Light. The Whisper Light International kind of expands upon the fuel that you can use with this. So this one, not only does it take the white gas, but it also takes kerosene, which is readily available around the world and here in the US. So whereas white gas, depending on the region that you're in, might be a little bit harder to find. It works essentially the same. You can see that the other one I showed you, the Whisper Light, was a little bit older and it had a Phillips head style screw or style bolt, and this one has a hex. And all of the newer stoves from MSR come with all the tools. So it has a little bolt there, has a little hex wrench that it comes with, and a manual and things like that. All of them do. And they talk about maintenance and things like that in there as well. I personally, this is the stove that I use anytime I go backpacking. Like I mentioned, it does take those two different fuels. I typically use white gas because it's cheaper and easier to find for me right now. Kerosene, I have used kerosene on mine a couple of times. It just burns. It does last a little longer. Kerosene has a little bit longer of a burn life. But I don't typically like the smell of kerosene. So white gas for me just doesn't bother me nearly as much. But that is not a plug for white gas, just as much as personal preference. But these are super easy to maintain. As I mentioned, you can take them apart, and put them back together after cleaning pretty quickly. Similarly, this one also uses the same kind of pump. Yeah, fantastic little stoves. So next in line, we have the Msr Dragonfly. This is a fantastic stove. We'll get into the different fuels that it accepts. One of the things I like about the Dragonfly is great for baking outside. So if you're trying to test your skills at either making pizza or baking breads or cakes for folks, this guy is the way to go. I do use the Whisper Light International or the Whisper Light for baking frequently. I would say it's probably the one I'm most familiar with. The only reason I say that is because it's heavier. So I typically will use a lighter stove. But one of the benefits of the Dragonfly is that you can cook a lot of food for a lot of people on it. It's got a very nice wide base. It takes a fairly large stock pot. So if you need to cook large meals for people, or you're doing big freeze-dried things, or pastas, or really anything one pot items that you want to cook a lot for a lot of people, this is a great one. Anywhere from, I don't know, 4 to 6 people, I would feel comfortable cooking on this. Another great thing about the Dragonfly is that it accepts 3 different kinds of fuels. So we talked white gas and kerosene for the International, white gas only for the regular Whisper Light. This one takes both of those, plus you can burn diesel on this. So say you're in a pinch, or diesel's just readily accessible to you, it will also cook on there as well. Diesel doesn't burn as cleanly as some of the other fuels, but it still does work, and it has a similar burn time, maybe give or take 15-20 minutes, something like that, over the course of an entire bottle. Uses a similar pump system. Pretty good. Just make sure that everything is clean and ready to go for the next time. You can see I'm getting a little dust or soot on me. And actually you can see, so this stove is probably 15 to 20 years old, and it still lights and burns just as good as the day it was new. The only issues that I've had with it is that it's starting to get a little bit worn out. So over time, you can see that's just heat burn. But this has been a fantastic stove. This was one of the first stoves I ever bought. So really awesome stove. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about like your camp kitchen and how to control that area. In a family setting or with a bunch of friends, it's really hard to like keep people out of the kitchen because, you know, for car camping, the picnic table is a gathering place and things like that. When you're in the backcountry with friends, I highly recommend like one person is doing the cooking. You can have somebody else a little bit farther away doing prep work and chopping up things and things like that. But I definitely recommend taking the time to create your space, because you have people walking through your camp area, especially with all the forest fires and things that are going on right now. Nobody wants to kick over a stove on accident. That is a very hot flame that will burn very, very quickly, not only you, but the surrounding area. So what MSR does is a couple of things. So first, we have this little base that they give out with their stoves. It's nice, little easy aluminum, very flexible. But what it does is creates a really nice base. So if you can't find a durable surface, by that I mean rocks or sand or something like that you can place your stove on, this will work just as well. And what it does is it creates a heat barrier to the ground that's around it. You're not going to burn any grass if you have this guy down. Another thing that they provide is a windscreen. So you've got your stove set up like so. This little cutout right here is for the fuel area, and it creates a nice little windscreen right there. And again, for baking and things like that, sometimes I'll even use this if I have it on a very low simmer, and I'll either elevate my pot or I'll keep it right there. And I'll actually take the base or another base from another stove and create a little like double oven kind of going on right there. A nice way for cooking. If you're interested in backcountry baking, we do have a backcountry baking clinic that'll be, I believe it's in November, that you could sign up for, and we'll cover everything from making pancakes to pizza. I'm going to make some donuts and bread. Maybe bake a cake. We have a staff member whose birthday's coming up, so I might take care of that then too. But yeah, if you have any questions or any questions at all, please feel free to contact us. You can reach us at outdooradventures@unm.edu. Give us a call at 505-277-8182. Or just pop in. Here on the 12th, we'll be open from 10 to 3, Monday through Friday, starting October 12th. So we hope to see you soon. Thanks.